Hey, it's Efruz here with a mouse comparison video between the Corsair M45 and the M65. Now, the reason I even have both of these mice is because I wanted to try each one out, and at the time that I bought this M65, it was a refurb, and this wasn't available in refurbished yet. But this is now available in refurb, and the reason I'm making this video is because they are both available refurbished for $29 for the M45 and $39 for the M65 before shipping and taxes on Corsair's website. I'll link that in the description. And I want to make a comparison video so you understand which mouse you may want and any factors that can contribute to that. So let's begin. I'm going to start with the M65 because I've owned this mouse longer than I've owned this one, and there are going to be a few functionalities that are slightly different over time just due to normal wear. And these aren't necessarily bad things, but different things. So if you look at the sides of this mouse, you can tell that the sandpaper-ish coating is clearly worn off on the M65. So I'm going to assume, because I honestly don't remember at this point, that the M45's textured surface is how the M65 will feel when you get it. But to be honest, I prefer this worn out feel because it's glossy and I can grip it better, and I have sweaty hands, so it helps grip. It's easier to grip a glossy finish than it is to grip an entirely matte or sandblasted finish on my M45. They'll both feel the same if you were to buy both of these at the same time. The M45 is an overall bigger mouse. You can see that the front sticks out farther, the back sticks out farther. If you look at them from the top, you can tell that the M45 is taller. You can even tell from looking at the sides that the M45 is a slightly wider mouse. Now, there aren't any specs on the size of these mice on Corsair's website, but what's really weird is that they say that the Raptor M45 weighs 0.33 pounds, which is about 150 grams. Yet they say that the M65 weighs 0.31, which is about 140. Now, the reason this is weird is because the M65 has an all-aluminum construction and the M45 has an all-plastic construction, aside from the buttons and side grips on the M65. But the chassis that covers all the stuff like the PCB and whatnot is aluminum. But in real life, the M65 feels heavier than the M45. When I pick up this M65, it feels heavier than this M45 despite not having any weights or screws in it, and the M45 having all the weights and screws in it. Now, when I move the mouse back and forth, the M45 does feel heavier, but I have a feeling that if you were to put all the weights and screws in this, that it would be significantly heavier than the M45. And I don't even think that both of these mice are even around 150 grams in weight, because that would imply that it's about as heavy as the G502, which I don't think is true. The M65 has a Avago 80NS 9800 sensor, which is a laser sensor, and the M45 has a Pixart PMW3310H sensor, which is an optical sensor. So, for those of you that see the breaking point in buying a mouse to be the sensor, then the M45 is already your option, and you might as well stop watching this video because the M65 in your eyes is not competition. The 80NS 9800 sensor, at least on the M65, is the closest thing to flawless tracking I've ever felt on a laser mouse. The M45, I can probably say in practice, has better tracking than the M65, but you really don't see it if you're casual gaming. When I do a test that a lot of people do, where I have walls or objects that limit my movement on the left and right of my mouse, and I move from the left and the right to see if there's any positive or negative acceleration depending on how fast I'm moving the mouse. I don't really see a difference aside from like a few pixels maybe, but that could also be human error due to the shape of the mouse. I could end up having it start here aligned this way and have it end aligned this way. So it could be human error, but the acceleration is virtually non-existent if there is any at all. Both can have the same report rates or polling rates, which is 1000 Hz, 500 Hz, 250 Hz, and 125 Hz. This is expressed in the software as 1, 2, 4, and 8 milliseconds respectively. The Avago 80NS goes up to 8200 DPI on here. The Pixart PWM 3310H goes up to 5000 DPI on the M45. This has 8 programmable buttons due to its sniper button, which the M45 does not have. Otherwise, they both have 7 programmable buttons. Now, after using the M65 for a very long time and getting an M45, I thought the grip was perfect, just due to the fact that the sniper button wasn't in the way and it didn't go onto my thumb at all. But after using this mouse, the Logitech G303, which I'll be putting a review for after a little bit, I actually found the M65 to be more comfortable. And this might be due to the slightly smaller overall size, but I do think that anyone who hasn't gripped a small ambidextrous shaped mouse like the G303 would enjoy the M65's grip more than the M45's. Also, if you have short thumbs and they don't impact the sniper button that much, you may also enjoy the M65's grip more, and the fact that it has an additional button, because to you it would feel essentially the same as an M45. The M45 has red LEDs. There are no options. The M65 comes with a blue LED if you buy the Vengeance M65. You can also buy the Corsair Gaming M65 RGB, but there's no M45 RGB. I'm not sure why, but they do have a Saber Optical, which uses the same sensor that's in the Razer Death Adder, which I would probably recommend over this, just because this is a very stubborn mouse when it comes to tracking. I used my desk, which you can see is a laminated wood. I used a bunch of different kinds of cardboard. I used the back of notebooks, a bunch of different stuff. And the only thing I could get it to track on is this mouse pad that it's on right now, the Perix DX2000L. And otherwise, it has tracking issues. Even on my laminated desk, it will move, and then sometimes if I pick up the mouse, it'll freeze in place. The M65 tracks on literally anything as expected of a laser sensor. Going back to M45 sensor, the reason I would recommend the Saber Optical over this is because the Death Adder sensor hasn't failed me in terms of tracking on anything. It tracks on my desk, it tracks on my mouse pad, which at the time was a Razer Goliathus Extended, and it tracked on pretty much any surface I could try it on. I'm not sure why, despite it being an optical sensor compared to this optical sensor. I'm not sure if this optical sensor is picky but has superior tracking on a mouse pad. So, if you have any reasonings as to why that's the case, you can leave those in the comments below. This mouse is older, so the clicks may be a little bit quieter or deeper toned on the M65, just due to their greater use. I use both clicks quite a bit. Right clicks for a lot of MOBAs and left clicks for a lot of FPS games or MMOs and whatnot. But as you can tell, the clicks on the M45 are lighter than both the clicks on the M65, so it could just be use. Even the scroll wheel clicks are lower pitched. So basically, over time, the clicks will get a deeper tone if the sound of the clicks bothers you, most likely. But this M45 hasn't gotten wear. Now, in terms of the scroll wheel, there's actually more tactile feedback on the bumps on the M45 than the M65, which again, the M65 has been used quite a bit. So, but there doesn't seem to be a difference in terms of the resistance of scrolling. So it requires about as much force to scroll on this scroll wheel as it does on this one. So over time, it should feel roughly the same. You won't really notice it unless you get a new mouse. Both of these mice are really short. When I grip the mouse, my palm does not rest on the back of this mouse. I can fit a finger in between my palm and this mouse. So it's kind of like a hybrid fingertip palm grip, since I don't claw it like this. That's what I would consider my grip. To show you how large my hand is so you can understand, my wrist is ending at about 0 centimeters, so my hand is about 20 centimeters, 20 to 21 centimeters, maybe give or take half a centimeter, and my palm when closed is about 11 to 12 centimeters wide, give or take half a centimeter, and when it's wide open, it's 18 centimeters, give or take a couple centimeters. I have noticed after using my G303 for a while that I actually get less clearance trying to move to the bottom right of my screen as the mouse pushes into my palm and essentially restricts movement, since I keep wrist in place when I move my mouse in regular use. So when I move to the bottom right, it pushes into my palm and essentially slows down in a way. And this might just be the way I grip the mouse. Some of you may not have this issue if you fully palm grip the mouse if your hands are small enough, or if you fingertip or claw grip the mouse if your hands are big enough. You may not have any issues with the mouse having movement restricted by your own palm. Because I'm talking about refurbished models, I want you to understand that these mice come with 90-day replacement-only warranties. That's what it says on Corsair's website. There's a chance that you can get a refund on either of these mice if you talk to Corsair support, but don't quote me on that. As of the publishing of this video, both of the mice are in stock, $29.99, $39.99. And if they're out of stock significantly farther in the future, then your only real option in terms of Corsair gaming mice is the Saber Laser and M65 RGB for this mouse, and the Saber Optical RGB for this mouse. Because chances are they're not going to be making any more of these if they're out of stock both in the store, new and refurbished. And I believe that's it. Thanks for watching my comparison between the M45 and M65. If you have any feedback, leave that in the description. Links to both of these mice in refurbished condition will be linked in the description. Thanks for watching my video. I'll see you in the next one.